So got a Mac here. I had accepted a job with KPMG, and I am still to this day a case study in the accounting program. The first day of the junior core, you get this like list of anonymous like do not do these things, and I'm one of those. It says don't accept a job, and then 5 days before you start, call them and tell them never mind, which I did. So I started my first company, Silent Whistle. We did the BYU Business Plan competition here, did the Entrepreneur of the Year. Eventually sold Silent Whistle a few years later to Global Compliance out of Charlotte. And then along the way, I'd met Gary Rhodes, who's a professor here in the marketing department, and bought a company called Allegiance Technologies from Gary. And then we bought a company in Austin, Texas called Inquisit. I'll tell you a bit about what those companies did and merged them together into today what is Allegiance. So as he mentioned, Allegiance based in South Jordan. We've got a little over 100 people. We were number 5, the 5th fastest growing software company on the Inc. 500 list a couple of years ago. And yeah, just doing some fun stuff. And if anything I say today piques your interest or you're like, hey, I would be really good there, the last 2 times I've spoken here, I hired people out of my presentation. So if you like have a background in this and market research, I know there's a bunch of Qualtrics people down here, and they're a very, very low end of what we do. So if that kind of floats your boat, then be sure to reach out to me. Ton of clients, about 400 clients around the world. This is the Inc. 500 thing. We win awards. Wanted to give you an idea of where we fit in the broader picture, though, how we may relate to other companies you've seen here through presentations. So the big industry that Allegiance and a lot of other companies, there's 400 or 500 people trying to compete here. We're all disrupting this market research industry. $30 billion is spent every year by companies trying to understand how their customers feel about them, and less than 5% of the data is ever used. So it's a prime industry to be disrupted. So that's kind of the big holy grail. But as we go after that, and we're helping these companies understand and automate the way that they get feedback from their customers, we bump into some other big players, which makes what we do pretty interesting and pretty fun. We see a lot of the CRM vendors. So these are customer relationship management companies. If you've used like a Salesforce.com or Oracle, SAP, just about every big software company has acquired a CRM vendor along the way. Deal with a lot of those guys. We deal with in the BI space because we're visualizing a lot of data. So you probably heard Josh or Chris Harrington or someone speak about Domo. I don't know if you've heard about Domo yet, but they're trying to disrupt this space as well. Social media, you guys all are familiar with this. This is another area. Companies are spending a lot of money trying to figure out how they can tap into this massive fire hose of data, but make sense of it. Use it for use it in an actionable way. This is a big opportunity. We have products that address this area, but there's a lot of opportunity. If you are an entrepreneur, you're looking for ideas, this isn't a bad place to get going. There's a company that was just acquired called Grow Social. They just got acquired for like $30 million. The company's like 2 years old, based in Salt Lake. So a lot of opportunity there. Marketing automation, this is Omniture, Adobe, companies who are trying to build these suite of software products that they can sell to chief marketing officers. And then contact centers. Call centers are still a big piece of the way the world does business. A lot of money is spent there, and we have a lot of fun because we sit kind of in the middle of all this. We do integrations with all these different systems. We're trying to help people who buy our product understand the data that they have in all these other systems. So we aren't trying to be the person who consolidates it all, but we're trying to help them make sense of what sits in those other systems. So we have a lot of fun. Half our company is engineers, so we're a very engineer, geeky type organization. So that's Allegiance. Like I said, though, I think what you guys, students, what they seem to be a lot more interested in is, okay, how do you start a business? Like, what does it look like? How do you go from having your KPMG offer to jumping in? So by raise of hands, I just want to understand kind of majors here. I think it's a fairly diverse group based on prior experience. So who's an accounting major? Give it up for the 2 accountants in the room. What about just general business management? Just a few. Finance? You marketing? What do you guys major in? You're all engineers and computer science? Yes. Come and work for me, computer engineers. So we have economics, strategy, what else? Electrical engineering, construction management, sweet. Chemical engineering. Good. I haven't heard a degree at like humanities where you won't get a job when you're done. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Music! Yes. I can't even play the piano, I'm sorry. No, but glad to see there's such a diverse group. I never took these kind of classes here, so you already have a leg up on me. I did the Masters of Accounting program. I went for the classes that were the easiest A. I didn't do any entrepreneurship classes, nothing fun. And then as I was graduating, I had taken a class from Larry Miller, the former owner of the Jazz. In fact, today is the four-year anniversary that Larry died. And Larry used to teach a class here, and 2 days a week he'd come down for 3 hours each day, and he would just tell stories of how he got started. And this one day he was talking about how he became an entrepreneur, and he was 38 years old. He was managing the parts department at the Toyota dealership in Murray, working his brains out, and he was notoriously cheap. Even when he was worth billions of dollars, he was still notoriously cheap. And he had saved up about $90,000, and in today's world, that's probably like 300 grand by the time he was 38. So that's a pretty big deal. But having that money allowed him to buy that Toyota dealership in Murray on State Street, and then it just kind of went from there, and he became to what he was over the next 20 years. And his advice to us, he said, I was 38 when I became an entrepreneur, and that is extremely rare for that to happen, because when you're 38, you have kids, you have mortgages, you have braces, you have a wife that is used to a consistent paycheck. So his advice to us was, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, go do it right now. Go do it when you're in school. Go do it right after you graduate, because you guys are used to eating ramen noodles, and it doesn't really matter if it doesn't work, because you don't lose anything, and you've got your degree, you can go get a job. And I totally bought into that, 100% bought into that. So that's really kind of the first domino, is deciding that it's what you want to do. And you guys have so many resources available to you now here at BYU with the business model competition, just the entrepreneurship program in general. Going to those events will be really helpful for you. And you guys who are computer science majors, engineers, you need to hook up with the business people. And the business people, you're me, we don't know how to build anything. We're kind of useless in a startup without engineers. So that's where you can go to meet those guys. Because usually the engineers have these really, really cool ideas. They have absolutely no clue how to monetize them. And most engineers, sorry engineers, but most of the guys I know, even when they're 40, they still don't know how to monetize stuff that they know how to build. So you're always going to need each other. My current CTO, I think I'll start businesses with him for the rest of our lives. He needs me and I need him. So go to those events to see if it's something you want to do. I think after you go through that and you meet some investors, or you go through a pitch and have someone tell you that your idea is stupid, and you feel like, if that hurts your feelings, you might decide, hey, you know what, this just really is not for me. I'm going to go work for Adobe or another great company and build my career that way. So for me, that was kind of that was the turning point for me, was decide you want to be an entrepreneur. So we'll get into SpongeBob here, and they went through the exact same process of deciding it's what they wanted to be. And everyone's motivated by different things. Whoops.
What'd you get?
Let's see. Gary. Hey, a magazine! That's funny. I don't remember subscribing to Fancy Living Digest. Whoa! Look at these glossy depictions of a higher standard of living. This guy's so rich, he has a swimming pool in his swimming pool.
This guy's got shoes.
Give me that! Stealing my mail, eh? You're lucky I don't report you to the authorities.
Hey, Squidward, how do the people in that magazine get all that money?
They're entrepreneurs. They sell things to people.
What kind of things?
How should I know? Things people want to buy. Now, keep your paws off my mail.
That's it, Patrick. We gotta become entrepreneurs.
Is that gonna hurt?
Okay, so we have a brief timeout here. We've got some winners already. Okay. Cam from Modern Family called. He wants his shirt back. Who is that? Who tweeted that? Very nicely done. Let's see, a lot of making fun of my shirt. And Elizabeth said, and neither businessmen nor engineers know how to design. Hashtag that's where I come in. Who is that? The music major. All right. Okay. We have a couple winners so far. My wife's going to appreciate the cam one especially. Okay, so what motivates most people to be entrepreneurs? Money. That's what motivates most people to get into it. And if that's going to be your only drive, hey, it can still work for you. A lot of the guys I know have made a lot of money, and that's the only reason they wanted to be an entrepreneur. For me, that wasn't the only reason. It's just a good fit for me. If I'd gone and been an accountant for KPMG, I would have been fired within a few weeks because I would have struggled in that environment. So it just fit my personality a little bit better. I'm good with numbers. I like to be out meeting and talking to people. So for me, it was just a really good fit. I felt very natural in front of people, dealing with investors, customers, all that kind of stuff. So you got to find out if it's going to be right for you, and this is the perfect place to do that. It's completely risk-free for you guys to go out, and there's a ton of mentors here that are worth a ton of money, and you'll make great contacts that, like I said, you may find your job. Let's say you decide you don't want to be an entrepreneur. You could likely find your job through this process. Now, if you decide you do want to do it, what's the next thing? You need your idea. And that's what, when I sat here and I'd hear all these guys talk about the businesses they started, I was like, I don't have any ideas. What am I going to do? And you can't just go launch a business before you have a good idea. So we'll watch SpongeBob and Patrick get their idea, and then I'll tell you about how I got my idea.
Quick, Patrick, without thinking, if you could have anything in the world right now, what would it be?
More time for thinking.
No, something real, an item, something you would pay for.
A chocolate bar?
That's a great idea, Pat. We'll be traveling chocolate bar salesmen. Fancy living? Here we come.
Make way for a couple of entrepreneurs.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to show this part is, when I was sitting in your seat, I thought I had to, cure cancer to have a good idea. I thought it just had to be this amazingly unique, one-of-a-kind idea no one had ever thought about before, and I'd be really secretive about it, and I wouldn't tell anyone. And that's not really, what entrepreneurship is all about. It's more about spotting a good opportunity, even in an old existing market, but just being better at it and being able to take advantage of that opportunity. You look at a lot of the businesses that are successful here in Utah, they're not really groundbreaking technology. That kind of stuff happens in the Bay Area and in Silicon Valley a lot more, where they're inventing, new ways to compute, new ways to, have database schemas, or, things like, we don't invent, I guess what I'm trying to say, we don't invent a lot here. We are more opportunistic entrepreneurs. Fusion.io was started here. That was more of an inventors type company. But you look at Omniture, you look at AtTask, you look at us, we're not really inventing anything new. We're just doing stuff better than it's been done before. So, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a software company. When I was first starting, there was a company in a business plan competition with me that just made pool tables, and they found some factory in China that could do high-quality pool tables for cheap, and they were able to sell them here for 5x their money. I'm helping a guy right now with a long-distance endurance kind of cycling drink. It's sugar and water, but if you put a really unique spin on it, you go after the right target market and you have good margins, it's pretty easy to build a business. So find what you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be some crazy idea no one's thought of before. It can be selling chocolate bars. So for me, that idea was in college. There was a law passed called Sarbanes-Oxley. You guys know what Sarbanes-Oxley is? It put a bunch of new laws on publicly traded companies. They had to go through all these different audits, all these new rules, and it was because of WorldCom and Enron and all those big failures in the early 2000s. So that was passed my senior year to going into the MAC. And I was the first presentation back in a class like this after summer. When that law went into effect, this partner came in and he said, people are going to get really rich off this law. Anytime a law of that magnitude is passed, same thing with Obamacare. When a law of that magnitude is passed, a lot of people can make money off of it. And so I started to, research Sarbanes-Oxley, and there was this little section 301, that required public companies to have a whistleblower system. So I started to call around some of the public companies here, and some of them had a hotline that people could call, and most of them didn't have anything. I was like, there's got to be a way I could turn this into some online reporting thing and make money. So that was the birth of Silent Whistle. And 4 or 5 years later, we had 2,000 clients around the world and $4 million and about 40 employees when we sold it. So just kind of watch for those types of opportunities as you're in school. Next thing you do, once you got your idea, you've got to be able to overcome rejection. When my wife's family is very blue-collar family. When she told them what I was doing, that I'd gone through all this time and effort and money to get a master's of accounting, and I was not taking the job, and I was going to go start my own business, they thought I'd lost my mind. And most people did. Entrepreneurs thought it was awesome. Everyone else thought I was an idiot. And I would pitch investors or people to buy the product, and you just have to learn that some people are going to tell you you're an idiot, and they're going to tell you that your idea is stupid and all the reasons it can't work. And sometimes they might be right. When I give entrepreneurs advice, I'm totally straight up with them. If I think it's a dumb idea or the revenue model's never going to fly, I just tell them up front. And I tell them, hey, I could be wrong, and if I am, then I'll admit, and I hope you're wildly successful. You got to be used to that, and SpongeBob and Patrick had to learn that.
Okay, Patrick, this is it. The first step on our road to living fancy. Just follow my lead. Good afternoon, sir. Could we interest you in some chocolate?
Chocolate? Did you say chocolate?
Yes, sir. With or without nuts.
Chocolate? Chocolate! 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 Chocolate!
Okay, I had this very experience in this room. So when I did the business plan competition, they have these venture capitalists all fly in from San Francisco, and they all think they're God's gift to the world. And I think the top 10 got to present to him. So I presented, and back then Steve Albrecht was the dean of the Marriott School, and he was one of my investors. And I was like, this is like done. I'm going to win. So we go and present. I ended up taking third, and I'm still extremely bitter about that. The two companies who beat me are both dead, which I am extremely happy about. So I'll just admit that right now. But anyways, so we're in this room, and I'm like thinking I have this thing wrapped up, and this venture capitalist comes up to me from San Francisco, and like spit was coming out of his mouth as he passionately told me how stupid the idea for Silent Whistle was. I've invested in a company like this that's built around legislation. It'll never work. This is going to be a massive failure. See if you call KPMG back and see if they'll still take you. And it was the first time I'd really had someone that, bluntly tell me that I was a moron. So you have to be able to deal with that. So what happens to SpongeBob here, it's going to come back around here in a little bit, just like it did for me. But the next step is you got to learn to bootstrap. And you guys, if you're in the entrepreneurship program, if you're getting it all involved, they're having you read a couple of books that kind of take this to a whole new level. You're reading Nail It and Scale It, right? And Steve Blank's book, Customer Life Cycle, and what's his other one? Boomstart is the one that Gary Rhodes wrote. These are all really good books built on this principle, that before you go start spending a bunch of money, you have to get your business model fine-tuned, get your customer fine-tuned, your go-to-market strategy fine-tuned, and don't spend money until you have that done. And keep iterating until you either succeed or fail. And treat it more like the scientific method. You have a hypothesis. All right, now I'm going to go test my hypothesis. Fail. All right, go back. Let's look at the hypothesis again. And then that's how you build a business. And I did that at Silent Whistle just by luck, but not without some hard lessons like SpongeBob and Patrick go through here.
Chocolate bars, eh?
Yes, sir. We are chocolate bar salesmen.
Couple of mediocre salesmen, if you ask me. That's no way to carry your merchandise. No, wrong. You guys want to be good salesmen, right?
Oh, most certainly, sir.
Well, no self-respecting candy bar salesman would be caught dead without one of these.
Wow, what is it?
It's a candy bar bag, you knucklehead. It's specially designed to cradle each candy bar in velvet-lined comfort. I'm wasting my time. You don't need these bags.
We need them! We need them!
So long, boys. Happy hunting. suckers.
Fancy living, here we come!
Okay, so one of the best and worst things that happened to me when I started is I got a $50,000 seed investment super early on. It was actually from my home teaching companion's rich dad. And we were home teaching, I was telling him about what I was doing. He's like, my dad might be interested in this. Dude gave me 50 grand without even asking me any questions about the business. So that was great. That was really lucky, and I look back, and that's one of the reasons things were, worked out for me pretty quickly. But at the same time, it was a curse. And it took me a long time to figure out that that's not the norm, and you can't, having that kind of money in my pocket wasn't really good. So about a week after I'd gotten that investment, I was sitting down with a group of MBAs, and they were going to be my business plan team. We were working on the business plan competition. And one of them said, I've got this guy who could have a really good opportunity for you. And so this is already starting to sound like an MLM pitch, right? It's like, he's got this amazing opportunity once in a lifetime. I'm going to have him come in tomorrow and tell you about it. I'm like, all right. So he comes in. He's a salesman for the Deseret News, so the local Salt Lake paper here. And he's like, all right, once a year, we run this special business section on a Sunday. And for the price of $18,000, you can have the first page all to yourself of that special business section. So, I'm just like, that's my face. I'm like thinking, all the people who called me idiots are going to see me in the paper. And there's going to be this awesome big picture of me, and then maybe another picture of me, and then we'll have this other picture of me working, and it'll be awesome, and I'll get all this business from it. And I thought it was like the greatest idea ever. And luckily, I had built this advisory board. John Richards and Gary Williams and a few guys here from the Marriott School. And I would get them together once a month and just tell them about my ideas, and then they would pick them apart or tell me that they were good. So the next day, I had an advisory board meeting. I'm like, I'm going to wow these guys with this awesome idea. So I go in, really confident with these guys, telling them about how amazing this is, how it's going to help blow the business up. And, one of them, as I start to go through it, I notice they're all like sinking in their chairs and kind of looking at each other out of the corner of their eye, just like, who's going to tell him? So finally, John Richards like, Adam, how much money do you have in the bank? And I was like, I don't know, I had like 40 grand left. I'm like, I don't know, like 40 grand. He's like, so you're going to spend almost half your money on this? Yes. It's like, and it doesn't contribute to your product. It's not to hire an employee. It's for a one-time picture in a newspaper. I'm like, yes. And then they proceeded to just tear me apart. Then they all jumped in, and it was a free-for-all on tell Adam how stupid he was. But I was totally SpongeBob and Patrick. I felt like just by spending money, that would create success. That if, I've got 50 grand, so therefore I'll be successful. And that's not what entrepreneurship is about at all. And in the early days, it's actually pretty vital that you learn how to get your business model together without spending money. So that's an important lesson for me. It took me a little while to learn it. And I think you guys will be a step ahead. There's a lot better materials, and those books are great to teach how to do that. Next step, you have to know how to sell. If you're an engineer and you don't know how to sell, you need someone that knows how to sell. And this is the part I thought I was pretty good at, but I ended up hiring a VP of sales, and it didn't go so well. Just like Patrick and SpongeBob had some struggles here.
Oh, what can I do for you two nice young men?
We're selling chocolate bars. Would you like to buy one?
That sounds heavenly. I'll take one.
One chocolate bar coming up. Over in here somewhere.
I don't have time for this.
Remember, Patrick, flatter the customer. Make him feel good.
Hello? I love you.
I think you laid it on a teensy bit thick there, old pal. Let me try.
Please, go away.
How you doing?
How am I doing?
Want to buy some chocolate?
Wait! We gotta go!
Sorry, chocolate has sugar, and sugar turns to bubbling fat. Isn't that right, lover boy?
Sold one chocolate bar. I have a feeling we're too easily distracted.
Huh?
Let's make a pact right now that we will stay focused on selling at the next house.
What?
Let's shake on it.
Did you say something?
Remember, Patrick, focus.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. We're selling chocolate bars.
Why is Chubby here staring at me?
Focusing.
Back up, Jack.
Nice place you got here.
Okay. I had many stories just like this. So I'll tell you about a couple. The first one was at Ancestry.com. At the time, it was called MyFamily.com. And I took this guy in who was the sales expert. He was going to be my VP of sales. Great guy. Met him through the business plan competition. And so we go in. We're meeting with the VP of HR and I think the VP of operations. And he kind of gave me that same pitch, like, we got to flatter these guys. We got to become friends with them before we start to sell. I'm like, all right, you take the lead. So we're sitting in there, and the guy, you know, we go into his office, and he's like, all right, so tell me about your product. Tell me what you guys do. He's like, well, before that, you know, why don't we, you know, I just want to tell you a bit about us. And, you know, so he starts to try and ask him, like, the missionary BRT, build a relationship or trust type questions. And it was getting awkward pretty quickly. And so he starts talking about his past and his heritage. And he's saying, yeah, I'm half Greek and half Brazilian. And the guy's like, oh. And he's like, yeah, so I have a Greek face and a Brazilian bum. The dude's like, gave him this weird look. He's like, do you know what a Brazilian bum is? And the guy's like, no. He's like, I'll draw it for you. So he like gets up on the whiteboard and he's like diagramming different bum shapes. He's like, now this is a normal one, and this is this kind, and this is a Brazilian one. I'm like, dude, I don't think this is how you do it. And the guy just had as you could tell, it was the most awkward meeting I've ever been in. You know, so we tried that approach. That didn't work out with that guy. So my next one, I went in by myself. I was like, it was IHC. I'm like, I'm going to go take IHC by myself. We had a meeting with all the executives. I walked in. I got there like 2 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start. And I had my laptop, and she's like, are you ready? Because people are already starting to get to the room. The assistant came down to get me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I got my laptop. What I had failed to really think about is I was still using my laptop that I'd used for all of my schooling. And it took like 5 minutes to boot up. And then I didn't realize, you know, you go through all the presentations, group presentations in school. And the old laptops, you used to have to push function F8 to make it work with the projector. I had never done that. In all of my years of going through school, someone else always ran the presentation off their laptop. So I had never done that before. So I finally got my laptop booted up. It's like 10 minutes into the meeting. All the executives are there looking at me like I'm a moron. And then I can't figure out how to get the projector to work. We go through like 10 minutes of trying to do that. By the time I get it all working and it's ready to go, and I look up, there was nobody left. They had all walked out of the room, and just the assistant was sitting there. And she's like, yeah, thanks for that. So it takes a little while to figure out how to do this. When you have a startup, selling a brand new product takes a different approach than when you have an established company, and you have to kind of network, meet people that are friends of people you know, and that's how I got into my first clients. Overstock.com, Franklin Covey, Zions Bank, were just kind of people doing me a favor. But this is an important part of being an entrepreneur. Was there a hand over here, or were you stretching? Okay. That is, as any entrepreneur will tell you, once you get out, your first vision, your first product doesn't always work. So you have to refine your strategy. SpongeBob and Patrick had to do that. But by the way, we had a new winner. Aaron Larson. Who's Aaron? All right. So Aaron's been bagging on me quite a bit on Twitter so far. But his one that made me laugh, he said, I used to think that hipsters were cool until I met you. Well done, well done. And he's the one sitting there with his headphones around his neck. He's like, I don't want to be like him anymore. All right, refine your strategy.
We're not doing so well, Patrick. We need a new approach, a new tactic.
I got it. Let's get naked.
No, let's save that for when we're selling real estate. There must be something. What was the reason we bought those bags?
He said we were mediocre.
That's it. He made us feel special.
Yeah, he did. I'm going back to buy more bags.
No, wait, Patrick. There must be something to this selling game that we're just not getting. Other people do it. I mean, look at that.
Eat barnacle chips. They're delicious.
They are most certainly not delicious.
Not the way I use them.
Yet they sell millions of bags a day.
Well, maybe if they didn't stretch the truth, they wouldn't sell as many.
That's it, Patrick. We've got to stretch the truth.
Okay, so any company you get out there, someone's inevitably going to ask you for something you don't have. And I'm not saying you lie, but one of my early investors told me, he said, with every entrepreneur, you're always right here and you're selling something right there. Now, to be successful, you have to tell your customer that you are right there. And what will separate the people who win from the people who lose is the person that is able to get there by the time you told the customer you would be there. So I was on a call, when we first started Silent Whistle, the idea was this is strictly going to be an online product, and I wasn't going to use those stupid 1-800 hotline numbers ever again. You know, it was like this religious thing for me. I was never going to do it. It was wrong. First meeting I was in, they're like, well, it was Franklin Covey's like, well, of course, we'll still need the hotline. I'm like, absolutely you will. So sold it, and I'm like, okay, now how am I going to get a 24/7 call center that speaks 20 languages? So ended up, you know, we had to tweak that. Obviously, didn't stick with the online only. We went and partnered with a company in Virginia that did that for us. Was able to negotiate a good deal. So I was able to offer that to my clients for pretty cheap. And then we ended up buying that company about a year later. Question? It was kind of just a prototype. It didn't really work. In fact, Overstock.com, I went to lunch with the president just a few weeks ago, and we were laughing because he's like, that product didn't work when I bought it, did it? I was like, no, it was totally PowerPoint. And now we can laugh about that, but early it was just, you know, getting it slowly built and then having customers start to give me feedback, and then that kind of dictated the direction. And then the Franklin Covey that was the first time they said, we're going to need a phone system to go along with this. So we went and added that, and then we had a client out in Boston that I was on a call with them, and they said, we're of course going to need an IVR system to do this as well. I'm like, oh, absolutely, of course you will. And I didn't even know what IVR stood for. So I hung up and immediately went to Google, and I had no idea what that meant. But got an IVR system put in place by the time we had to be on site and demo that we had something for them. So that's always part of being an entrepreneur. You have to let your customers kind of dictate where you're going. Next, you got to sell the dream, baby. We had another winner, though. Weston Coons. Are you Rob Coons' son? Okay. 30 minutes into this lecture, and I have no idea what's going on. I'm spending all my time trying to think of a clever tweet. Well done. Well done. All right, sell the dream.
We'll work as a team. Let me get this customer warmed up, and then you come in for the kill.
The kill.
Yes? Hello, young lady. We're selling chocolate. Is your mother home? Mom! What's all that yelling? You just can't wait for me to die, can you? They're selling chocolate. Chocolate? Yeah! What are they selling? Chocolate! What? Chocolate! I can't hear you! They're selling chocolate! They're selling chocolate? Yeah! Chocolate. I remember when they first invented chocolate. Sweet, sweet chocolate. I always hated it. Oh, but this chocolate's not for eating. It's for...
You rub it on your skin, and it makes you live forever.
Live forever, you say? I'll take one. Come on, you lazy Mary. Start rubbing me with that chocolate. I hate you. If we keep exaggerating the truth, we'll be fancy living in no time.
Hooray for lying!
It'll make your hair grow.
Great! My wife's trying to grow a beard.
They'll make you sound smart.
I'll take It'll keep your face from getting any uglier. Just in time.
They make you fly.
You'll fall in love.
They'll bring world peace.
You'll walk through walls.
You'll rule the world.
Okay, so you don't lie. I'm not saying you go lie, but you really have to go do this. There's a book called Sell the Dream by Guy Kawasaki, one of the original Apple guys. Go read Sell the Dream. And when you're starting a company, one of the things you have going for you is that people naturally root for you. Some people want you to lose. Some people will be jealous that you've started a company and they want you to die and fail because they always wish that they'd done that. But for the most part, people want to see you succeed and they want to be a part of it. And this was an important part of me getting started with Silent Whistles. I was able to convince a lot of people to just get on board with this thing. And I had this giant advisory board that ended up dragging me into probably my first 20 clients were through contacts of this advisory board. And I just sold them on, I had sold my house to start this company. I left my job with KPMG. I had a wife and a kid. I was throwing everything I had into this thing. And people just loved it. They loved the story. They loved to help me out. And I was shocked what CEOs of big companies would do for me just because I bought them Cafe Rio or something. And this is a big part of starting a company. It can't just be go lock yourself in your basement and build something cool and hope that it's the field of dreams, and if you build it, they will come. That's not how it happens. You got to get out and evangelize it and sell people on the idea. And again, you have good resources here. If you can get a John Richards or a Gary Williams or a Scott Peterson or one of these guys to catch your vision and catch onto what you're doing, they'll help you a lot. So this is an important piece of being an entrepreneur. And then lastly, like we talked about with that iterative customer model. You try, you hypothesize, you try, you fail, you try, you fail, and finally you tweak your business model and you get it right, and suddenly it will start to work.
Don't get me wrong, Patrick. It's great that we helped that guy out, but there's no one left in town to sell chocolate bars to. Whoa! Let's face it, Patrick. We're failures.
I can live with that.
Let's change our names to Why and Bother.
Chocolate! No,
Finally! I've been trying to catch you boys all day! Now that I've got you right where I want you, I'd like to buy all your chocolate.
Thank you for your patronage.
Are we living the fancy life yet, SpongeBob?
Not yet, Pally. First we gotta spend all the money.
But what are we gonna spend it on?
Good evening, sir. Table for one, please.
Sorry, but the whole restaurant has been rented to a private party.
But it's my only night to be fancy. Oh, who could afford to rent out the whole restaurant?
Oh, a couple of rich entrepreneurs and their dates.
So, how long have you two ladies known each other?
What? What did he say?
I told you about the story of the guy in this room. I was standing like right there, spitting on me, telling me what a fool I was. So I stayed in contact with him, and a couple years later, he actually led a $6 million funding round into my company. And it was kind of that same thing. I slowly got him to be a believer, and you'd be surprised, like I said, how many people you'll inspire and will admire what you do as you kind of break through and become an entrepreneur. And like I said, people like to be a part of success, and that's something that we had a couple of articles written in Fortune about, and it's been a story that I still like to tell of how he told me my idea was stupid, and then a couple years later ended up becoming my biggest investor, and still is. Additional steps. That's pretty good for a SpongeBob episode, isn't it? There are a few things I couldn't. You got to cut me a little bit of slack. I couldn't find SpongeBob clips to teach you these principles, but a few other things. I talked a bit about networking and the beauty of a free meal. I'd say my first year, I ate lunch with someone almost every day, and I probably spent $6,000 or $7,000 just buying lunch for people, and you'd be shocked. Like, you email a CEO of some big company or a CFO or whatever and ask them for help, and they'll blow you off or say, I'm really busy, talk to me in a couple of months. You offer to buy them a meal, and they'll go. It's really weird what people will do for $6. Worked like a charm for me, though. That's how I got most of my first clients, was offering to buy them lunch. Hire really, really good people. And this takes a little while, which is why you need an advisory panel, an advisory team to help you know the difference between good and not so good. Because as you're starting a company, a lot of the people who will offer to come and work for you just can't find a job elsewhere, and that's why they're coming to you. So you need to be able to sift through those guys and find other entrepreneurs. And the difference between, especially in engineering, the difference between someone who's an A player versus B is like a 5 to 10x difference in the amount of value that they can provide to you. Thirdly, know what you don't know what you're not good at. And this took me a while. It took me a while to figure out I don't like to run the business day to day. I like to be out and be the customer evangelist, being out in the industry, talking to analysts, talking to partners, selling the dream, selling the vision of what Allegiance is all about. Managing budgets and KPIs and human resources drives me bonkers. It took me a while to realize that kind of stuff about myself. But with that, I think we have, just a few minutes for questions? 2 minutes? Sorry, I talked too long. Yeah.
So when you started this and you were visiting with customers, how did you initially set the price point for your product, and how did that change as you met?
That's a good question. At first, it was more of, what are you willing to pay me? I think my first client was like $600 for Silent Whistle. Which was way too low. I ended up, and then it was like $1,200. I was afraid to ask for big money. And so that's why I think a lot of these people just took pity on me. They're like, this guy has no clue what he's doing. He only asked me for $1,200. I'm helping a guy start a business right now, and he had a pilot with IHC all teed up, and he's like, I don't know how to price this. What should I tell him? I was like, dude, tell him it's 50 grand. And he was scared to death. He's like, there's no way they'll go for that. Because to just a guy starting a company, a young guy starting a company, 50 grand is a lot of money. To IHC, that's a rounding error. So he went and told IHC it's 50 grand, and they were like, oh, we didn't know it'd be so cheap. So you need to, that's part of the, your business model is understanding the pricing and how you can, scale that out. And it takes a little bit of trial and error. You say 50K, and if, they choke, then 10? You got to hone in on it in those early days. The question is, how did I recruit engineering talent? It was really hard. I tried to build the first version of my product with an outside engineering team. Totally sucked. It was $7 grand. I'd never even used a single line of code. And then I tried to hire my own guy. That went okay, but I finally found Conan Albrecht in the ISIS department here. Conan is the man. And I went to Conan and I was like, dude, I am dying here. And he was like, I'll help you for free, just give me some stock. So Conan still has stock in Allegiance. And he had Silent Whistle stock that rolled over. But he was my first CTO for free. And he built my first product, and he got it to the point where it was finally good enough, and he helped me understand what a good engineer was. So like I said, if you're a business guy and you don't know engineering and technology, you better find someone who can help you, because I couldn't tell you the difference between, if you gave me a line of code in PHP and a line of code in .NET, I could not tell the difference. Good question, though. Anything else? One more? Nothing? All right, if I didn't read your tweets, I'm going to read them again when I get back to the office. If you want to go to lunch, if you have a business idea you want to run by me, either tweet me. I'm probably best at tweets. If you want to email me, it's just adam@allegiance.com. And I'll get back to you. And anyone who has free gear coming, I'll have my assistant reach out to you, and you can pick from all the stuff we have. Thanks. Oh, yeah, one more. @Adam Edmunds, all together. Thanks.